Product Backlog Refinement is the moment in which the entire Scrum team is coming together to look on what are the features that we are going to develop in the future and ask questions about them, clarify the requirements, clarify the acceptance criteria, and think whether they can be estimated because we have all the information or they can't be estimated. So then is when we need to work more on the preparation. But the refinement meetings or the PBRs are also very boring. Yes. At the beginning, they may look very interesting because we look ahead and we know what's coming up. It's look pretty cool in terms of curiosity, but then whenever it's getting like a routine in the sense that you have the product owner who presents a feature and everyone is raising questions and then we need to estimate them, then we are lost in some discussions, or we want more clarifications, or we don't know what's going on. We don't really understand the requirement to an extent in which we need to commit by estimating the story points. Then these meetings are really getting long, boring, and frustrating for everyone. So in this video, I'm going to share with you 12 alternatives to the Product Backlog Refinement meeting that will make your team more fun, better use of this time, and you will end up with better features developed and a better estimation, of course. So let's get started. Hi everyone, my name is Anka, I'm an Agile coach. Welcome to my channel. In this channel, I'm releasing one educational video every week, and if you are using Discord with your team, check out Orli. It's our Scrum bot for Discord. With Orli, you can plan your work, do your daily asynchronously, you will have automated reports, and you can run your retrospectives, all without spending a lot of time in meetings. That being said, also don't forget to subscribe, give it a thumbs up to this video, and let's jump into today's topic, which is alternatives to backlog refinement meetings. Alternative number 1, Together Alone workshop. This concept was introduced first by Google and afterwards has become very popular. What does it mean? It means that whenever it's time for your scheduled product backlog refinement, everyone is gathering together. You are making a list of topics to clarify, and to each user story you are assigning 1 or 2 persons to work on that one. Then you split for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, in which everyone is trying to get as many information as possible, raising as many questions as possible about that particular user story or feature. And we are going like that to gather details to ask all the questions that could be, and the product owner is going to make a tour of all the people, of all the tables. Imagine like virtual tables, well, or it can be physical tables if you are in the same location, and the product owner is going to answer to all these questions. That will make the user stories in a better shape with far more information from the beginning. And if you take 20 minutes to do that, guess what? You are going to have less discussions when it's going to come to the comment session, because you already clarified a lot of things. It will be just a matter of sharing information, clarify those little things that are left, and that's it. You may do refinement meetings in 45 minutes, if not even less. Alternative number 2, spikes. Spikes are time boxes used to research on a particular topic. Usually we are using the spikes as 1, 2, 3 days of research, trying to gather as much information as possible. Eventually we are doing some prototypes, some proof of concepts, but imagine that you are taking this big effort into 1 hour, 2 hours. Instead of meeting today, we are going to have 3 spikes of 2 hours in group of 3 people. And we take one topic and we try to prototype it. And you may think that, well, no, these concepts are way too complex. We are not going to be able to prototype the user stories. Well, I can tell you from practice that you may be surprised. I work with teams that whenever I'm replacing the product backlog refinement meeting with spikes, they get very excited. Some of them do forms, type forms, some of them use Excel, like that infinite way of prototyping something to bring more clarity. Give that space to the team. If you are a team member, also raise it. I'm sure everyone will adore you because that has been my experience. Team love to go into the actual doing something that gets them excited. So spikes is a way of doing it. If you want to read more about spikes, check the video up there. I linked it for you I think it will be here. So it's always different when you are filming. So check the video and let's go to the next steps, which is the prototypes. Well, who says that the product backlog refinements really need to be 1 or 2 hours? You can make it maybe in one day. Maybe you want to have 1 day of refinements every month. Feel free to adapt it. There is no requirements, there is no specifications on the Scrum guide about how this should be carried on. The only thing that is said is that you need to do product backlog refinements, but how you do it, up to you. So prototypes are a very nice way of replacing the meetings with. What does it mean is that you are taking a certain topic inside your team and everyone is contributing with a part of it. And I can tell you that this can get very creative when you do it as a teamwork. However, what is very important when you're prototyping instead of PBR is that you don't go on for a week. You really have to keep it short. So for example, you can make a website in a PowerPoint. Yes, I've done that. I made a PowerPoint presentation, which you export as a PDF, and that's an HTML page at the end of the day that you can open it in your browser and you can click on the buttons. So go create it, don't take too much time, and prototype before you do it. If you are dealing with something that doesn't have user interfaces, of course a PowerPoint, a Canva or other tools are not going to be useful, but you can have it with database queries, you can have with answers in your console, like really be creative about what you can do and prototype before. I'm sure that is going to clarify far more than a discussion could do. Alternative number 4, personas. Who is using the product that we are building is very important, because if we understand the people that are using it, we will also know how to predict it. So why to talk about so many features? Why not have a workshop to define who is our persona? Also, check in the description, I linked some resources for you to learn more about how you can define your personas. Ideally, such kind of workshops, you will do it quite early in your product development. However, it's never a bad idea to revisit it. At Orli and with other teams that I worked with, we are revisiting our persona every 6 months to 1 year, because as we are growing, we tend to acquire more people that may have different requirements or different profiles. So if it stays the same, then that's perfectly fine, but don't forget to revisit your personas. Alternative number 5, vision definition workshop. This is something that is less common, but is very powerful. I do it mostly for the teams that are passing through certain key milestones in the development, and whenever we hit a milestone, I'm usually advising that we convert the product backlog refinement into a vision definition workshop. In this workshop, we are going to invite the management, the stakeholders, that will need to take the wonderful business strategy and convert it into team level communications, so every member of the Scrum team knows how they can help to reach this vision. And I can tell you from experience that this kind of meetings are very inspiring for the teams if they're used in a good way, because they see that they are valuable for the company, they have a purpose, and they know there is a need. And I'm going to go to the alternative number 6. Impact Mapping Workshop. It is the workshop in which we are defining the why, the who, the how, the what of the product that we are developing. And this structure is very important to move ahead. It's not too detailed, it's not too high level, it's just enough for us to bring a frame into it. And if you are using Scale Agile Framework, for example, this is a good workshop to run every program increment or every other program increment. While we are doing this workshop, you can define very quickly what can be a functionality and where you can prioritize it. Alternative number 7, define product releases. We rarely speak about product releases. When do we release? How do we release? Usually that's coming like something out there that we need to organize a meeting separate for it. But what about using the product backlog refinements for it? Because we are refining the product backlog, right? Releases are very important, are a very crucial part of the product development. So let's talk about it. And this is coming usually after the impact mapping workshop, because you are going to have features identified from that workshop, and now you can prioritize them, the ones that you are going to release first, second, third, and the ones that will be released first, that is going to be your next major release. And eventually you can define what are the intermediate releases that you are going to have before that. So that's how you can replace the PBR with a workshop in which you define the product releases. Alternative number 8, define the MVP. Why not take the stakeholders, investment, and everyone together and define what are the minimum functionalities to take this product in front of our clients or future clients. And it's not only that we define a bunch of features, but everyone will get engaged to commit themselves to have this MVP. So imagine, instead of having some discussions about how many points a certain functionality will have, we are going to have the team members that are going to volunteer and they are going to be more engaged in contributing to an MVP, to a new product that goes on the market. Alternative number 9, features estimations. We talk quite often about story points, about user stories estimations, but what do we do about this big chunk of functionalities that we need them estimated from the management perspective and also from the team perspective, because if the management imagines that they're going to take shorter but they take longer, who is going to deal with all that pressure? Well, you guessed it right, the Scrum team. And I usually have these features estimations instead of stories estimations. When we start to have a good amount of user stories estimated, usually whenever we see that we have 2 sprints, a full backlog, then is the moment to look from a higher level features. So we can give this visibility to the management on how long certain things will take without the need of defining all the user stories, without the need of defining the whole scope. Alternative number 10, the design studio. This is a user experience workshop, and usually you take a problem and each team member is drawing 5 solutions to this problem. And then we go in circle and we are voting for the solution that deserves to be implemented. Of course, not everyone is talented on UX. I may be the one less talented on that, but I can tell you from experience that all of us managed to do something, and actually it's not the ones that draws it the best, but it's the collective solution, because the solution that gets implemented, sometimes it's a mix between multiple solutions, and eventually it may need a real UX person that will draw it in the way it's going to be implemented. But this way is engaging, it comes up with a lot of very, very good ideas, and it speeds up the work of the UX expert. Alternative number 11, market research. You are going to say that this is the job of the product owner, but the reality is that with the speed of the development that we have nowadays, with the information that we have nowadays, it's it's quite hard to cover everything. So if we can involve the Scrum team into this job, will be amazing, because everyone may have ideas, especially if you understood correctly who is the persona, if you heard the stakeholders. Everyone should contribute. The work that makes a difference for the Scrum team is the moment it is a team, when everyone contributes to this product development. So why not split in groups, or simply go and research ideas that can be used in a product? And they don't need to be necessary from the competition, but they can be from anything. You can get inspired from Google, from Facebook, from Uber, from a lot of companies, or why not startups that do cool things. Alternative number 12, live configurations. I know this is not applicable all the time, but think a bit if it is possible, because if you manage, for example, to draft something and then we are tweaking it during the product backlog refinement meeting, and eventually you can split into groups and do these tweaks that we can configure it. You can see how it looks. It makes it like a working session, like nobody has any homework, and you end up with something that works. Of course, it's going to need some fine tunings and some work to make it like user ready, but some systems are really suitable to do these live configurations. And don't find it as a waste of time. Use the PBR as a place to get work done, and configurations is one example of it. Alternative number 13. Use some collaboration tools to review the product backlog before the refinement meeting. This is something that I implement quite often with the teams. So whenever we arrive to the PBR session, there are less discussions. We only talk about the questions, we only verify our understandings, we only talk about our cool ideas, because whenever you take some time before the meeting, you know what's coming up, you are not surprised. You can do quick research, something that is hard to do whenever you are seeing a certain functionality for the first time. I hope you are enjoying these alternatives to the boring product backlog refinement meeting. If you don't have a boring product backlog refinement meeting, also feel free to try one of these alternatives. I'm sure you are going to have fun, have some diversity, have some change in the way you do the things. Will be very beneficial for the team. I look forward to hear what are your results, how did you experience these workshops, and if you have some other ideas, some other alternatives, I put them down below. I really look forward to hear them. And until next time, don't forget to subscribe, share this video if you liked it, give it a thumbs up, and I will see you next week.